to Let's Talk Football, and now that we've had both of our guests on for the evening, we can now turn our attention to our new style on Let's Talk Football. And Mr. Osborne, I want to ask you, can you explain to everybody what the new style and new procedure and setup for Let's Talk Football is going to be?
Well, it's not really a new style.
No,
it's going to be on a semi-regular basis. We'll pick a topic, we'll research it, we'll fact-check it, we'll speak to the various people involved, we'll offer the right of reply to whoever's the subject of the topic.
Yep.
We'll get them on the show if we can, and then we'll present it. We'll take calls, we'll take Facebook posts.
Yeah, and by the way, the open line here, if anybody wants to call in, is 9418 7700, and if you call in, you will probably just about get straight to ear.
Just about. If you're a bit shy,
Yep.
the SMS line 0429 913 913. You can be completely anonymous. You can also get us on our Facebook page at Let's Talk Football, and that's very easy to do. If you want to remain as Mr. X or Mrs. X, by all means, we can provide you with that.
And once again, that open line number 9418 7700, which Murray is now going to put on our Facebook page as well, so that we can, so that if anybody wants to call in, they can.
I suppose with
what are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, we'll move to that in a second.
Right,
The idea came, I suppose, because as a listener for the last couple of years, one of my favourite parts of the shows is the now infamous Eamon rant, but it's also one of the least favourite parts of the show for me personally as well, when we kind of shoot and miss.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of rumour out there, a lot of misinformation out there, and so I suppose what we're trying to do here is we'll pick a topic, whether it's a listener that asks us to investigate something, whether it's a topic we think of, and then we actually go and try and lift the lid on it and try and find out a bit more information. So tonight is we've got Phil Kelly in the studio as the guest tonight. He's our expert on the panel. Phil's a member of the State League Standing Committee. He's also a zone representative. And the subject for tonight's discussion is loosely framed as, has Football West lost its way? Now, the reason I kind of thought about this is I was actually having lunch with a good friend of mine. He's a former professional player in Australia. He's a junior NPL coach here in Perth now. And he just asked me a couple of questions. He said, well, he made a few statements. He says, why does nothing ever change for Football West? Now, that surprised me a little bit, because I've seen a bit of change. Maybe it's not been happening fast enough, of course. But the second question he came back with was, why can't ordinary members tell Football West, give them their opinion? Why can't they tell them what to do to try and help be part of the process to improve? And that confused me as well, because I mean I used to be on a couple of standing committees. Phil is currently, and so I know there's a mechanism there for members to actually approach Football West and get representation, but it appears the general public think that they actually don't have a voice.
I think the perception is that they can't, and even if they do put forward a suggestion, it's going to be laughed at or not listened to seriously.
I think it's right. Look, that is the definite view of the general football public in WA, and it's one that I shared as well as an executive member of a club. I became very frustrated that our voice wasn't being heard. So I found out what I needed to do to get a voice, and started asking questions about standing committees and zone reps, and here I am today as a sitting standing committee member and a zone representative, which is a voting member of Football West.
And that's fine for the likes of you, the likes of Andy, and that. But what about the normal Joe Blog that doesn't want to get involved in standing committees, but still has valid concerns about a number of things?
And I think that's the conclusion I came to. General Joe public may not have the tenacity or the determination to go on a standing committee,
the heart,
or be a zone rep. Or they may not just have that level of interest. They may just be interested in one specific topic, but there should be a mechanism. There is a mechanism for that opinion to be heard and to be passed up through the zone representatives, through to Football West.
Hang on a minute.
Board.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy
And
process.
the other thing is, I know, now I haven't looked in the last 2 years, but I know up to a couple of years ago, there was people listed as zone reps that were not zone reps.
Yep.
Yeah, and the point in question is James and Karen Ray, who are both on the bloody list of zone reps long after they had resigned off it. It had never been updated, so how the hell can people contact the zone reps if they don't even know who those zone reps are?
Well, that's a good point. So part of the research that I did with this is I obviously went on the Football West website to try and find out who the zone reps are. Well, there's a list. A few weeks ago, I was on that list as a standing committee.
Are you still on it?
No.
No, but have you checked the list to see if you've gone off it?
It's been edited in the last week or so. Now, part of this feature in a radio show is we do contact, in this particular case, it's Football West.
Yeah.
We actually sent the information to them a little over a week ago, invited them into the studio to come and participate. They declined that, but they did send us an official response. Now, that's posted on the Let's Talk Football Facebook page. Anyone can go and have a read of it if they want to.
And by the way, the reason for that is it just saves us reading out the whole response here.
Well, exactly. But the interesting thing about zone reps and standing committee members is, I believe Football West have said that it's gone in the last few years from under 50 to almost 90 zone representatives or standing committee members. Now, I went on the website tonight, I can only find 69 listed, and there's no contact details. So if I don't know these people personally, how do I get in touch? How do I talk to them?
Well, it's a bit deeper than that. I mean, I'm obviously a standing committee member and a zone representative, and I don't recall ever being given a standard operating procedures or terms of reference where I'm told what I need to do, and so I've sort of made it up as I go along, how I see fit, and it's interesting because some of the feedback you get from people, and I have reached out to members of the football public, and it's these common themes that come up quite often. What are you going to be able to do?
Yeah.
They're going to do what they want to do anyway, and all that sort of thing. And this is a topic that Andy and I have spoken about on a number of occasions. About and I think we asked the question, who has Football West lost its way? And I think I posed the question to Andy, well, who is Football West? What is Football West? And if we cast our eyes back to the dark old days pre-FFA,
Soccer West Coast,
so Soccer West Coast, JSA, WASA, we've got to look at why the zone reps exist. Why do the standing committees exist? And it's as a result of the Crawford report. And the Crawford report wasn't just about football; it was about it was about sport in general.
Yeah, and governance, wasn't it?
And corporate governance, and making sure that members and representatives of the sport had a voice. So, the governance structure that was recommended as a result of the Crawford report was the zone representatives. Obviously, making sure that each zone had a representative that they could go to, provide feedback like a senator or like a politician. They can actually go and have that person who is elected, by the way. So the other thing, let's take a little sidestep, is that zone reps and standing committee members are elected by the clubs, and the clubs can absolutely decide who sits in these positions.
I mean, and there have been steps since the Crawford report to put that mechanism in place, but surely there's a responsibility as well to actually make it as accessible as possible. Simply putting email addresses on a website, that would be great, or a mobile phone number.
Yes.
That would be fantastic too, so that it makes it easier. I don't know about you guys, and I do something on I do something on the computer. If I can't find it with one or two clicks, I give up and move on to something
Absolutely,
else.
you do.
Yeah, I agree.
That's an important point.
And now we've got a caller online at the moment.
Yep, Joe from Inaloo, and Joe has put up a very interesting question. Actually, he wants to know, gentlemen, who on the Football West board is actually involved with football? Is a football person? Have they either played it or been involved in it?
Well, there are a number of people who have been involved in football. I mean,
Oh, by the way, good evening, Joe.
Good evening, lads. Yeah, I know the new CEOs come from a cricket background, but apart from Alex Navatsas, who I think's great, he gives up his time and, he always answers questions and is on this program and other programs. I just don't know if it's sort of still run as a bit of a boys' club, marketing department or whatever it might be there. Like, how many people are from a football background as opposed to cricket or other backgrounds, and what sort of money they on? Because I'm led to believe there's, we're talking maybe $1 million plus with salaries there with all the board members, and the money should be filtered down to grassroots, in my opinion, for the kids as opposed to...
I think we should be clear, first of all, thanks for the question, Joe, is that the operational staff of Football West are paid employees. The board are not.
Yeah.
So we would hope, obviously, Football West recruiting staff with experience for the various positions that they're fulfilling. Alex is obviously an employee as well. He does come on the radio in his spare time. In terms of the board, who are ultimately making the decisions, I do know the vice chair, Henry Arturo, was involved in a number of clubs before he sat on the board. In fact,
he was with Armadale.
He was with Armadale. I think his children played for a good while there. So very involved in our code in football. But I think one of the regulations or one of the conditions of being on the Football West board is you can't be affiliated with any single club. You have to disavow all of your associations.
But is there any of them, as Joe asked? Phil, do you?
Sharif Andrews, he's on the board as well. He's been involved in football as well.
Mm-hmm.
Liam Twigg has got a very long playing history in football as well. So there are a number of people who have been involved in football. I think the most recent appointments have come from professional backgrounds. So they're not recruited from within football. And I guess there's an important, and Andy's touched on there about the executive of Football West being the paid employees versus the board. It does link into what we're talking about here with the zone reps, the standing committee.
Yeah.
Who is responsible to who? So the staff at Football West are obviously responsible to the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
The CEO is answerable to the board. The board are answerable to the zone reps and standing committee members, and the zone reps and standing committee members are responsible to everybody else.
Is that in a downward or an upward? So basically, who's at the top of the tree?
At the top of the tree, in what sense?
In other words, like you've got in a company,
Do you
you've
mean-
got
do
the
you mean
CEO is the top.
Who's
dog.
in charge, basically?
Yes, who's in charge?
Well, the people.
On the day-to-day operational management, the CEO and the staff are obviously running the business on day-to-day. But like any corporate, you have a board of directors that are setting the direction of what the paid employees are supposed to be doing, and the board of directors take their mandate from the shareholders. And in this case, it's the zone reps and the standing committee members, and ultimately the general public in football in WA.
Yeah. So, Joe, does that answer your question?
Yeah, to a degree. I still think at the top, the CEO is sort of part of it, and that they're paid, obviously, though, aren't they?
Yes, the CEO is paid. That's a paid position. I know that. It's the board.
His right-hand man is paid.
Whoever is the right hand is at the. at that
Pretty much
particular time.
from CEO down,
paid.
they're all paid members of or paid employees.
But the actual board, which is the
they are
likes of your Liam Twiggers, your Sharif, and your Henry Arturo, they're all volunteers.
And also
Unpaid.
all of the standing committee members and all of the zone
Oh,
reps.
yeah, of course,
It should be
they're
mentioned
unpaid.
that they're volunteers as well.
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
No problem, Joe, and thanks for calling in.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. So,
in terms of knowing who your zone rep is and who to phone, who to call, who to email, that's part of communication. It goes two ways. Communication from Football West to let us know what's happening. I mean, we've just had an instance recently where the issue of salary cap was debated and voted on at an NPL standing committee back in July the 7th, I think. A recommendation was to remove the salary cap. That was passed to Football West a couple of weeks later, and then it took three and a half months for it to reach the board, for the board to make a decision. Now, I've got a written response from Football West saying that the decision was made by a circular motion a couple of days before the awards ceremony in the middle of October.
yeah.
And Phil, you've just been at a
There's been a bombshell tonight.
Standing committee meeting.
And here is a bombshell for all NPL presidents, all NPL basically
But was
clubs.
Did the subject of salary cap come up in the State League Standing Committee tonight?
As it does at every meeting with the State League Standing Committee, and we asked I can verify I did ask the question directly because I'm aware, obviously, of the decision that was, I was told, ratified a few days prior to the awards night, and the question I had was that first and foremost, is that true? And then secondly,
what was the question? That
the salary cap had in fact been removed for the NPL.
For the NPL. So you specifically mentioned the NPL.
Correct. So my question was: one, is that true? And secondly, why wasn't the State League Standing Committee and/or State League clubs advised of that fact? And I was advised that the decision hadn't actually been made as yet, and would be before the board at the next board meeting.
In the response,
When's the next board meeting?
I understand it to be this week or next week.
yeah, but according to the response we got today, and I'll read it out word for word, the NPL salary cap standing committee recommendation was the first to be managed through this process and was passed by circular resolution by the Football West board. Football West was in constant communication with the chair of the standing committee through this process.
But this is starting to get a little bit farcical, and it brings it all back to communication. I mean, in 1 minute, one breath, we're being told, yes, it has been passed by a circular motion, but it hasn't been announced publicly. And the next,
suppose
it's been
just to be on proper,
Go on.
they don't actually say that it was agreed. They said this was the first to be managed through the process. They don't, and was passed, sorry.
Yeah, and was passed by a circular motion.
Yeah, so
now, a circular motion,
that's
for anyone
all
that doesn't know what that is, means that the board can actually make a decision without them having to be present in a board meeting. So they took that a few weeks early, because I believe the board meeting was scheduled for the 30th of October. It might have been
half
delayed.
the clubs have already been buying players or paying players.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Right. First of all, there's two issues here. First of all, it was a vote that was taken on the 7th of July. 3 months later, it's passed by a circular resolution. So
why couldn't that have been done?
Why so long for what I understand to be an issue which no one has any objections to? Everyone is quite happy to see the salary cap removed for the NPL for 2019. So why take so long? And the second thing is not communicating that and not announcing that, because you've got a situation now, and you had a situation a month ago where teams are buying players. There's money exchanging hands for transfer fees, you know, thousands of dollars in some case, and players are moving from club to club in some instances for hundreds, and you know, quite a lot of money for playing per week. Clubs are making promises and commitments to players. Players are making decisions to move from one club to another, and yet we're a little unclear. We're very unclear whether the salary cap will be in existence for NPL or not next season.
Well, there hasn't been a formal notification, so my assumption based on that was that the salary cap was still in place until such time that announcement has come out. Of course. And that was my question, because, I mean, obviously, the feedback...
You've heard the rumours...
Well, it's not rumours. I mean, I've heard it's fact. It's absolute fact. We were told that... the president actually said to me, we were actually told it's gone, it's done. I don't know what you're talking about, because I asked the question directly.
Well, I was speaking to one on Saturday, and he was adamant it was gone.
And that's disappointing to hear tonight, in particular. Because
but is it a case that maybe the new COO has not been informed?
Well, he was at the meeting tonight, so perhaps he hasn't been informed, because
bringing it back to communication again, isn't it? Whether you're communicating from within an organisation to the general public, or whether you're actually communicating within your own organisation. Yeah. I mean, as an executive member of your club, Ashfield, given the uncertainty tonight, I mean. We're talking about the NPL salary cap, of course, not the State League standing salary cap. The State League's salary cap at this point. Yep. Would you be making financial decisions and offering players to come to Ashfield if you were uncertain about what the financial rules were for next season?
I can honestly say that it would not impact us either way. However, If it were to, absolutely, it would have a massive impact on what we were doing. So if we were to suddenly come across a rich benefactor
Yeah, I was
that
just
wanted to
gonna
come
say,
into Ashfield, and
if Andy wanted to
if anyone is
support the club,
listening, then look, please.
Yeah, I
please
wish,
get
Eamon. I wish.
But look, if that was to happen, absolutely, it would have a massive bearing on
Yes,
what the
of course
financial
it would.
decisions we made. And look, we at Ashfield, we want to do it properly. We want to do it by the book, and we don't want to have to pay players under the table and all the sorts of dark dealings that happen. We want to do it openly, transparently. We want to sign professional players. And to be honest with you, I'd love $100,000 in the bank that I had allocated to pay players next year, and I would sign those players up on professional terms with all of their entitlements that they deserve, and I would absolutely broadcast the fact, because that's a sensational thing. If a club can afford to pay a player $1,000 a week, we should be celebrating that, and he should be doing it legitimately through the process, signing him as a professional, and we absolutely should be encouraging that. Unfortunately, we're in this situation where we don't know what's happening. And that can impacts on everything,
And that's the speed or the lack of speed of dealing with an issue like this. I mean, this afternoon we got an official response from Football West. They are looking at some internal governance framework. They've introduced some different ways that they operate. This includes the requirement for standing committees to complete a written pro forma. That's a form, right? Fill in a form that will highlight the recommendations that a standing committee is making to the board. Mm-hmm. And as they say in the next paragraph here, the NPL salary cap and the removal of it was the very first thing that used this pro forma. It took over 3.5 months, or it took over 3 months.
That's longer than a board meeting should take.
So the form and the process that has been put in place to deal with this form, it's too slow.
Yeah.
It's too slow because it will cause problems for clubs.
Well, here's the other thing, and this comes from their first couple of paragraphs of their response. And this, I think, herein lies the problem, to me, with Football West. And that is, they said that they held a survey and they sent out to 51,000 players, fans, parents, club volunteers, coaches and referees across WA. Now, they reckon over 2,000 responses were received. So that is, what, roughly 4%?
4% response rate.
4%. And 91% of people were satisfied with their football experience. So that means Football West think 91% of people are happy with their responses. No. 2%.
We're being economical with the numbers. What is a terrible thing is only 2,000
Exactly.
people.
Exactly.
Well, this is interesting, right? Because there's a 4% response rate. Industry standard is about 10 to 15. If you do an external survey really, really well, you should be expecting response rates between 30 and 40%. So Football West right now are tracking at 10 times less than that.
I can share with you guys, anecdotally, okay, it's a tough job out there being a standing committee member or being a zone representative. You mention that you're on the standing committee, you're a zone rep, and you get laughed at. People say, yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I've mentioned this before. I mean, go and have a look on Facebook. Go and have a look in any of the forums, and you can go back as long as you like. You can go back 10, 15 years. The conversation hasn't changed.
No.
Okay, we're all...
I will tell you, have a listen, go on to the Let's Talk Football video channel, and have a listen to Ziggy Kramer. Back 10 years ago, he is stating the exact same things that are happening now.
Which I suppose brings me back to the lunch I had with my football friend who's a junior NPL coach. Why does nothing ever change? And it would appear that you guys are saying it's not really changed in the last 10 years. So there's a problem. Now, I just want to clarify something here for you Phil,
sure.
Personally, but also for if there are any other standing committee members and zone representatives out there. I'm not making comments about anyone on the standing committees or the zone reps because they're volunteers. They're doing it for the love of the game. Yep. Some standing committees are being on work really, really well.
Absolutely.
But what seems to happen is we're fighting against the system. We're fighting against a process that is not well oiled.
So there's that. Okay. And the other, I absolutely want to mirror your comments there about everyone who does sit as a zone rep and a standing do a fantastic job and a hard job at the times as well. But at times, this system of governance wasn't designed for people to go in with their individual thoughts and attitudes or representative of their club. Okay, this is they should be going in with the best interests
And
of
with the
football,
broader picture in
with a
mind.
broad mind and
For the good of the game.
For the good of the game.
But it's also good corporate governance not to allow an individual opinion to take control.
Correct.
So
But
that's
the
why you have all these
unfortunate
checks and
thing-
balances in place.
Correct. But the unfortunate thing is that in this environment that we are at the moment, the only people that are actually actively engaged are the ones that care to be, who are currently running clubs
Yeah.
and finding that hard and wanting to do something about it. So obviously, these people that are now sitting, and myself included, are being representative of their club first.
I was just going to say,
right?
Yeah, you have to worry about
And
your
of
own
course
crop
you do.
first.
I mean, I do try to be a little bit more open-minded, but of course you're always going to be thinking in the back of your mind, is this decision going to harm my club? And that's why this system of governance isn't working in my mind. Because unfortunately, and that includes myself, the right people aren't being elevated to these positions to actually make the change and do what is necessary. And that's a tough pill to swallow.
So the people on the standing committees and the zone representatives, they don't have enough time to commit to do that job in its entirety.
Or to do it properly with the right level of engagement, whereas you're not just focused on your club, you're focused on 15 clubs and their issues, and you're going back and communicating. And to be honest, nobody sitting in those roles at the moment would be able to do that effectively.
Well, gentlemen, surely we got 51,000 registered players. There's a lot of money in registration fees going to governing bodies such as Football West and the FFA. We have enough money to have a system to smoothly run football in the state, to smoothly run football in the country. Where is the money going? And where is it being spent in areas where it should be getting spent on getting the foundations right?
The money's being spent. You can see the financial reporting in the annual reports that they present before the AGM. Whether it's being spent in the right areas, I'm not sure. I have been on a couple of standing committees, and one of the common themes was you give up however many hours a month to do that, but there was very little secretarial support, administrative support from Football West. So we'd get the occasional person to come and take minutes. The minutes didn't come out very quickly. It would be great to help the standing committees, based on what Phil's just said a few minutes ago, where people are time poor, because the people that are generally on the standing committees generally are presidents.
Correct. They're just there for the meeting, and that's it. They don't want
busy
to be
running the clubs anyway.
Yeah, and they read they want to just read the minutes thereafter.
I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could have a bunch of committed volunteers walking into a room, you've got someone there taking the minutes, someone cracking the whip organising the meeting, agenda's already typed for you, you sit down, it's a brain trust, you talk, you make your recommendations, someone fills out this new pro forma and then sends it off within 24 hours to Football West for it to get actioned or to get considered anyway.
Have a response either way. Look, I understand.
Now, yeah, go on, and I've got a question after that.
But
then,
if something is rejected by Football West,
now that's what I was going to say. Who makes the decision at Football West to reject or accept? Surely, if the standing committees are, that Football West are working for the standing committees, which is what you stated, right? Then, if the standing committees put forward a proposal, providing it is legal. Surely there isn't a problem.
I think it depends on what it is, Eamon. So I can think of numerous recommendations that the State League Standing Committee have made that have just about been ratified on the spot, and they've been done. And you know, one of those in particular, although it was tough work getting it through and selling it, was the allowance to have 3 19-year-olds in the under-18s competition that commenced last year. Now, personally, I'm not a supporter of that decision. However, it was voted on and was ratified, and it was done with dissent from Football West as well, and it was delivered. The other one is promotion and relegation between Division 1 and Division 2 and the playoff system. So they're things that we easily had ratified. They were slam dunks in what we put up. It made sense for it to happen. Obviously, there are more complex things such as the salary cap, which I think. I mean, and Andy, you'd remember from your time when you were a State League Standing Committee member, when Forestwood were back, the National Registration Guideline recommendation that we had was in place 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was.
Or 3 years ago, actually.
Yeah.
and we're still waiting. We have a firm recommendation to Football West on the National Registration Guidelines that we're still actually waiting for ratification.
And I think one of an associated issue with this as well is that when the board make a decision on a recommendation from a standing committee, what happens then? I mean, we've seen this with the salary cap removal recently.
Yeah.
No announcement, nothing on the website, no communication to the general public. Maybe the chair of the NPL Standing Committee was kept informed. No one else was.
I'd expect the chair of the State League Standing Committee to be informed as well.
Well,
absolutely.
Because there's a knock-on effect. If the salary cap goes in NPL, then it's likely to go in the State League as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because why have one without the other? But just the communication of... And it shouldn't just be the contentious issues. It should be every single issue. Every single issue that comes up before the Board of Football West, there should be a report on the there should be minutes of meetings that should be published. There should be announcements made on websites so that everyone knows. I mean, because there are a lot of decisions, a lot of business in front of that board and a lot of decisions being made that impact everyone in different ways in football. And I just don't see that transparency. I just don't see that communication. Am I missing something? Am I going to the wrong website?
Yeah, well, this, to be quite honest, since they changed that Football West website, it's shocking. And I'm just being straight up and on. I'm like you, Andy. I like to go to a website and just click on something that you want. You have to go into the search to find anything, really. And by the way, we will be back to this very, very shortly. But first, we've got some announcements to make.
Special thanks to our sponsors, Crowcast, specialists in providing the construction industry with precast concrete panels. JD Precast, the private single-family housing construction company. Graffiti Force Painting. Area 5 Football, the place to play five-a-side in Perth, located at Wanneroo, Wembley, Vic Park and Coburn. SDL, it's all about you, the goalkeeper. Unirack, for all your warehouse, racking and storage shelving needs. Parent Power, control your kids' internet without affecting your own. www.parentpower.com.au. Darlington Estate, Perth's premier wedding venue and restaurant. Heskstad, giving you the edge. And also thanks to the following clubs for supporting us: Guelph, Croatia, ECU Joondalup, Sorrento, Inglewood United, Forestfield United, Fremantle City, Perth Soccer Club, Athena, and Western Knights. Without your help and sponsorship, we would not be able to go to air.
And welcome back to Let's Talk Football. Right, let's continue on the discussion. Where were we, gentlemen?
Well, I think you were talking about you don't like to click more than once or twice on websites.
That's right.
To get where you want to go.
Yep.
Just an interesting thing. I think for me to drill down to get to where the zone reps and standing committees, I think it was 2 or 3 clicks. I recently got an email, as probably everyone else in the room did as well, about go and vote for the goal of the season. A few weeks ago. I actually wanted to do that because at the time there was a couple of Forestfield players who were in the running for that. I couldn't find where to vote. I found it about 2 weeks later, but I couldn't find where to vote. It is a hard to navigate website, that's for sure.
Absolutely, well, I agree with that, and it is definitely hard to navigate. Was there not a link on the email?
Yeah, I think so, and it didn't work for me, whatever reason. I couldn't get in. I got onto a page, couldn't find it. Too busy, moved on, didn't bother.
There we go.
Unless it's simple, people aren't going to go out of their way, and I think that could be the same thing with the survey.
The thing is,
I never got the survey, by the way.
You didn't. So I think.
But I'm not regarded as a fan, a parent, club volunteers, a coach, or referee. So I suppose I don't count.
4% response rate is not that great, and also the sample size. If anyone's taking any notice of a 91% satisfaction rating off a 4% response rate, then I think they're probably using a way too small sample size to give them the confidence that they're doing the right thing.
Let's cut to the chase, Andy. It's garbage.
It's garbage.
It's garbage, and it's misleading statistics. Anyone that's done any answer training knows people who are dissatisfied with a product or a service they're getting generally will not give feedback.
No, they just won't.
They
won't attend.
So
They won't attend, or they will tell
and what's
their
the crowds
friends-
like?
Now,
They will tell their friends
Yeah.
more than they'll give feedback,
Yes.
and they will tell their friends, "Don't deal with this mob. They
well,
don't know what."
well
they're doing."
let's talk about the right figures, right? 4% response rate, 91% satisfaction level in that 4%. So that's 3.5% of people said they're actually satisfied. How satisfied? Don't know. That means 96.5% of the people
are either
who
not
involved in
satisfied or
football in
don't give a
WA
damn.
it didn't respond or aren't satisfied.
Or can't be
96
bothered responding. And, and that's an
Exactly.
even worse issue.
That's an indictment.
The fact that 4% were the only ones to respond, also generally, would be a poor indication of the standard of the website too. Hard to navigate, difficult to find.
There are many tricks to make or to encourage a response rate higher than 4%. Industry average, like I said, is about 15. A good response rate is 30 to 40%, and it's all about how you
know
frame the
something?
questions and how you present it.
Seriously, if it
So,
was
hang on, so how satisfied are you with Football West? Very satisfied. Great, everything's wonderful. Very, super satisfied. You know, if you frame your questions like that,
true.
you can always say 91% of respondents.
well, this is what I was just
satisfied.
about to get at. If realistically, from a Football West point of view, and I know it's great to put it out there, but it's embarrassing to put out the figures. They should have just said the survey took place.
I'll just cast my eyes back to the NPL review process that happened, I think it was it last year or the year before? And it was I think the survey may have been around about the same time.
Yeah, I think it was,
I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
it was. And attempting, I mean, I'll be honest, I did literally pound the pavement trying to get support, to get understanding of how people wanted to see the NPL.
Yeah.
I was trying to do a good job. I was sat on that committee, and I wanted to really garnish what people really thought of the NPL and do something about it. And look, it was really tough. It was really hard getting sensible responses out of people. So I'm not I'm not surprised that there's a very, very low turnout.
So basically, it comes back to, if you're dissatisfied, as Murray said, you're just not going to bother. You're not even going to attend. And as somebody said on one of the forums, we sort of go, and I have been guilty of this, saying, "Oh, gee, we got 1,500 people at that match."
Yeah.
But what they're saying
It's the
is,
same 15.
it's the same 1,500 people. We are not getting any new blood into the game.
Yet our participation rates have never been higher.
Yes. And what it is people go out there on a Sunday, they enjoy their Sunday league, their amateur league, but as regards going to see a match on a Saturday, why would you go? Why would you spend the money to see kids playing? Because basically that's what it was forced to, really. It wasn't the best players, because they had done away with this, that you could have really good players in the NPL, sort of with the salary cap, with the point system. Teams couldn't play or couldn't buy who they wanted to play. Then you had the visa situation, where you've only got X number of visa players, which is, I suppose, fair enough to a degree, but 2, was it, in the NPL is all you were allowed?
Oh, visa players, yeah.
Yeah. So, sort of, why restrict clubs? Let clubs basically die by the sword if they...
This is a point I made in the NPL review process. Surely, whatever size the NPL was going to be, whether it was 8 clubs, whether it was 20 clubs, you wanted those clubs to be the best clubs.
Yes.
With the best 11 players playing each other every week.
Yeah.
Regardless of what rules you want to put in place to restrict player movement and to restrict people coming in from overseas, you want the best players playing in your top tier competition.
Yes.
And I asked the question of the NPL presidents that were in the meeting, do you think that that's happening today? And they were outright no. That's not the case. And so that definitely we do need to deliver a product. We are in, and Andy and I have spoken about this a number of times. We are in the entertainment business as clubs. That's what we are. We're providing an entertainment product, and if we were truly running as businesses, we probably would give it up, wouldn't we?
Well, it wouldn't be ticking the boxes, would it?
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, it'd be out of business.
Correct.
I mean, if you want to put the best product on the field, you need the best players, and now with the salary cap going, even before the salary cap went, you need money to bring in the best players.
But do you think, honestly though, if we're going to, so let's just assume for a second that the salary cap will be abolished. What do you think will change next year?
Nothing.
Very little. You're going to get two or three clubs that'll get stronger.
You might get a few marquee players getting the headline amounts, but the only difference. Sorry, I said nothing. I was a bit sudden there. Something will change. It can be talked about. It can be talked about on the radio station. It can be talked about in social media.
More open and transparent.
Because it was happening before, and anytime anyone mentioned it, they were locked down, punished. You just not allowed.
Even mentioned on social media. You were going to be.
So the only thing that'll change now is that people can actually be open about it, and so it'll change for a couple of marquee players, in my opinion. The rest of it will stay the same.
And
I know everyone doesn't agree with that.
Do you think there will be a bigger gulf now between the top and the bottom?
Between NPL,
I mean within the NPL, between the top teams and the bottom teams.
Of course you will, because you have the haves and the have-nots. That'll always happen. I mean, it'll happen in any competition.
Well, you've already seen where Bayswater are going.
But it happened last season and the season before. You have the haves and the have-nots.
I think the thing is we're almost avoiding it. Is that have we had a salary cap? And I'll also ask the question because I don't think we have.
No.
Well, I think that was one of the main reasons to get rid of it, because it's a salary cap rule in name only.
Unenforceable.
It wasn't being enforced.
Well,
it wasn't
as I
being
said,
policed.
Peter Hughes said before the whole thing started, we will not be enforcing it. He actually said that they were not.
Well, I understand that because it was brought in at the request of the clubs themselves, and football.
Because the clubs were struggling, Andy.
Yeah,
and they're going to go back to struggling.
The clubs were begging for a solution because the player payments had gotten out of hand. They were absolutely ridiculous at that time.
What were the crowds like at that time, though?
To be honest, I think they weren't much better than today.
No,
they weren't remarkably better. I mean, maybe for a well-attended game, you may get 200 people, perhaps. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's certainly not going to pay the wages bill.
No.
What was it 70,000 in the NPL? There were 200 people coming to each game. That's not going to pay.
Yes, 75,000.
Yeah, it's not going to come close.
No. I do think. Football West are missing the point. Coming back to the surveys, I think they're missing the point by trying to go out and get surveys to gauge satisfaction rates and things like this. I think what they should be focusing on is actually doing it. So working with the standing committees, working with the zone representatives, and actually getting those processes moving, rather than going out to surveys and asking if everyone's satisfied or not. Actually make it work.
But as clubs and committees and I guess people participating in clubs, so people that are playing football on a Sunday, or perhaps your kids are playing in junior football on a Sunday.
If you can afford to.
Well, if you can afford to, correct. That's another thing. I mean,
that's going to be another topic.
That's another topic that I could talk for hours on as well, is the cost of our game. But let's not go there tonight. We could definitely.
Oh, we're going to have lots of opportunities to talk about lots of different topics over the next few months. Yeah.
But the point I was making was that if you are at a club, what should you be doing? Like, should you be going through your club? Should you be trying to make contact with a zone rep or a standing committee member? I mean, how do we solve it?
Maybe one thing is, rather than spend time and money doing a survey, Football West should send in a couple of people on a rotational basis to each club and talk. Hold almost like public information forums. Yeah, exactly. Just to pull a bit of information. It shouldn't be reliant on the general public or members of a club to have to really force and push information up through the various people to Football West. Football West should be coming out and pulling that information from them and helping grease those wheels and facilitating that process.
Because there is a remarkable amount, and there always has been a remarkable amount of negativity in social media, in forums, and I mean, and that's pretty depressing to read sometimes.
Look, you're telling me it is depressing to read, and look, 90% of it is hitting back at Football West for one reason or another, and a lot of it is not even warranted.
I was going to say, well, is that the right punch to be thrown?
No,
because
it's not.
I don't think it is in a lot of cases.
No.
From my own personal experience, from a club perspective. Whenever I've approached Football West, they've dealt with any issues I've had well, professionally and efficiently. So, I mean, from my club's perspective, I don't have an issue with Football West. Couldn't possibly. They do a good job. But
So what
there's all this
is-
other stuff.
where
This is against the
how
context
do
of
we
our discussion.
how do we grab it by the balls? How do we get to the basic core of the problem?
Well, I don't think you need to rip out and start again. I mean, if you did, first of all, that would be very, very hard because Football West have a constitution. That constitution needs to be approved by the FFA. To change that is a really arduous
And
process.
you don't get FFA to change stuff
You've,
all
you've
the
actually got
time.
a structure in place already.
Yeah.
That structure needs to work, and you can't just say, okay, this is the structure. We get people involved, and now let's wash our hands of it, and we'll just let it go because nothing will happen. It's staffed by volunteers.
Yeah.
You have to go in there, and you have to keep those wheels turning. You have to help the volunteers to be able to help the process.
And I guess that's the thing. So the big thing is that the current sitting members of the standing committees and the zone representatives need to be given guidance. Who by? Whose responsibility is it to give them that guidance? Is it the general football public that need to guide them? Is it Football West? I mean, these are all. I sit in these positions, and I don't think I can even honestly answer that question.
And that's wrong. You know, we need to know exactly where everybody stands in the overall context of things and how to get stuff changed, if you have to get it changed.
Well, start by putting phone numbers or email addresses on the website of your zone rep. That's what I would do.
And this is the thing, and I suppose this is probably what we haven't hit on here tonight, and that is the communication coming out of Football West, or lack thereof. There appears to me to be a serious secrecy situation. It's not transparent. I really don't think it's transparent. It's
I think to have good, effective communication, you have to make an effort.
Yes.
I don't actually agree with what you just said there. I don't think it is secretive or there's people deliberately kind of closing doors and having private
but they're not
conversations.
giving the information.
No, but if you...
They're just bad at it.
Exactly. So if you don't put time and effort into the skill of communication, you'll do it badly. So you do have to put time and effort and get good people to communicate. And that's what's lacking, good communication.
Well, the right people delivering the right message or the appropriate
That's
message for whatever's being delivered.
Yeah.
I like James Curtis. I think he's a good communicator. I don't know him very well.
I don't know. He hasn't appeared on the show yet.
No, and wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if he did? So don't insult him, Eamon, because we're going to try and get him on the show to talk about something in the future. Because that would be great if we got him, or even Liam Twigger. Has Liam ever been on the show?
Yes, he has spoken on the show.
Okay, so it'd be nice to get him back.
Yeah, but the last time I asked Liam to come on, he said, "Why would I come on to the show when you called the CEO the Invisible Man or something like that?"
Right. Okay. So you insulted him.
No, I didn't insult him. I basically was of the opinion that the previous CEO had been on whenever we wanted the CEO of Football West on,
And that was Peter Hogg.
and that was Peter Hogg, and I had many a row with Peter, sort of on and off here.
Well, I've seen a couple of, or listened to a couple of interviews in the archives.
You know, but Peter was still strong enough to come on and basically face me face to face, and
He was very good at communicating.
Yes.
And putting his point forward.
and I was expecting
And-
a
and
similar.
being open.
Let's put it like this. As I said, I can get the CEO of Perth Glory, which is probably even a bigger organisation,
A 4 minutes notice.
at
Yeah.
very short notice.
Yeah.
And to me, I admire that.
That's good.
I'll probably give it a little bit of a different viewpoint. I would say that rather than Football West being or refusing to be transparent, they're probably a bit scared to make a call sometimes because, and then maybe they need to take note of that as well, because if you're afraid to actually communicate something, good, bad, or otherwise, take it back to a football sense. I mean, if you can't talk to your players in the change room, you've got a big problem.
Yeah.
I think that if Football West can't speak to the stakeholders openly, and sometimes that means delivering them bad news or news they might not want to hear.
That's right.
They should be confident in
if
delivering that
if
message.
they think they've made the correct decision, then they should.
They should own it and stand by
by
it.
their.
Correct.
Look, maybe you're right. Maybe they're a little timid in doing that openly and forcefully, because they know that whatever decision they make, they'll please half the people and they won't please the other half.
Correct. And I mean, threats of legal challenges and comments and all sorts of things. I mean, these are...
If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
True. I mean, I think
that's where it's got to come to.
I think if you're going to have good corporate governance and you're going to have a good running of an organisation the size of Football West, with the number of people that it affects, over 51,000 people apparently. I mean, you've got to be brave. You've got to be brave enough to make the tough calls, and they do. But as Phil just mentioned, lawyers get involved and it gets messy.
It does.
You have 14 teams in a 12-team competition and things like that.
Yeah. I think what the football public of Western Australia want is actually some leadership.
Yeah.
And I think that if we did start to see some leadership, I think it would instill some confidence, and then obviously start that ball rolling.
But it has to be proper leader. It can't be just pick something and attack it. If you know what I mean. It's got to be like...
Were you talking about proper leadership within Football West?
Yeah. Correct. And,
right.
and then obviously how decisions are communicated. I mean, we obviously the point that we've sort of laboured on is the one regarding...
And I think they've also got to stop being so paranoid.
You can understand the paranoia, though, Eamon, with the hostility and
if you're a regular punch bag, it's really hard to get defensive, you know. Well, sorry, it's really easy to understand you being defensive.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to me,
the thing is, it's not paranoia when it's actually true and it's actually happening to you. And I mean, I think we are probably in that sort of environment, aren't we?
Well, look, let's hopefully then we will change the tone slightly here, because a couple of months ago this would have been the subject for an Eamon rant, and it could have been perceived as another punching bag. What we've tried to do here today, obviously, is talk about this point in an open way. I mean, Phil's here. He's representing the infrastructure that's already in place. It would have been fantastic to have someone from Football West here, and to hear. We're not here just putting our opinions here. We're here to invite opinions that differ from our own. Yeah. Ultimately, I suppose, to talk about the subject in great detail, but I suppose the ultimate aim is to try and affect some change somehow.
But I do. Look, it is one thing. I almost think this is a passing thought. I think quite often, and I'll hear this at presidents' meetings. I'll hear this at standing committee meetings, and even meetings in general. What are Football West going to do? And I think that clubs need to take a little bit more responsibility in. I mean, you mentioned before taking it by the balls.
Yeah.
I'd like to see clubs do that.
Yeah.
Clubs need to grab the game by the balls and say, you know what, this is how we want to see things being run. This is how we want to operate. And try and work out collectively what it is we actually want, because they're probably not polar opposites. I mean, unfortunately, we're not always going to agree on a number of matters. I mean, promotion, relegation is a big one, where there are a number of mixed thoughts and ideas.
Quite well this year.
It's been fantastic, and it's been great for Division 1 and Division 2. It really has. And I mean, from our club's perspective, being in that relegation battle for the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season was something I mean,
frightening.
It was, absolutely. You know, what it did, it drove a lot of negative things, but it was a lot of positive things. And it felt like we won the league when we won it. We won that game at Joondalup, and that's how it felt.
You've just hit the nail on the head. Even the teams down at the bottom can have a win when they actually just avoid relegation. You've only to look at it in the EPL.
The great games are the ones that mean something.
Exactly.
Right? If you've got a dead rubber, middle of the table,
who cares?
Stuff.
No one cares.
It's boring, and the crowd don't turn up. No. If it's a relegation dogfight or a top of the table,
well, you can see the relegation promotion playoffs had very good crowds. Yeah. They probably had the same 1,500 people, but at least they turned up every time.
But it was something, Eamon. And we're doing something.
Yes.
That's 1,500 people that are turning up to Mandurah and to Swan and watching these games, and that would never have happened before.
But you know what I mean.
But they would never have turned up before. Those games didn't exist. And look, from a State League Standing Committee perspective, we're really proud of what we've achieved with relation to promotion and relegation. And look, we'd love to expand that into the NPL as well. It would only be positive. It'd be great for the game. As
It
well.
would indeed. Sorry, Murray, did you want to say something?
No.
I think he's given us the wind up.
Yeah, he is actually. Well, in actual fact, we have just about come to the end of the show.
Yeah.
And Phil, I want to thank you very, very much for coming in.
My pleasure, Eamon. Not a
And,
problem.
you just make yourself available on a Monday night. Andy, I know, how are you getting on? Have you got your new chefs yet?
Starting on Wednesday.
Oh, you're looking for a job, are you, Amy?
No, I'm just, the man is stressing.
No, I'm not stressing, but yeah, it's an issue.
Yeah,
that
we were
I
here
could
2
have,
weeks ago.
Yeah. A few just to fill in, just a few staff face changes at the winery. So bringing a new chef team in the next few days.
Always good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we just had a great weekend though. Customers didn't notice that I was cooking.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Is there any of them still alive?
You probably need to wait about 72 hours before making that statement, Andy.
I agree! there's a virus in a hospital.
Put it this way, I needed
There's a
everything
cluster
to
of salmonella out in Darwin and trying to work out the source.
Hey,
I suppose-
you can't
I
say
suppose
that.
the
That
benefits-
puts businesses out of business, eh?
The benefits of running a winery is you can get the guests that pissed.
Yeah.
They won't
Right.
notice the bad food.
Or when I get out of the kitchen, I get that. Yeah. With a
All right,
glass of wine.
listen, it's been a pleasure having this conversations tonight, or this discussion. And next week, our discussion will be...
Well, yes, we're going to be talking about the right to speak freely about football in WA,
Am I
actually
allowed
football in
to
this
talk?
in this
Are
country.
you coming in? Coming in for it
I
next
haven't
week?
invited him
I
yet,
haven't
but
been
we
invited,
have. I
but,
need to give him a glass of wine, I reckon.
Coincidentally,
but as
we're
we-
interested in a sponsorship package.
Yeah.
But don't worry, Eamon's been
as we-
very, very much on my case.
As we will do with all of these articles, we've already sent it to Football West, so they can have a good week or so to think about it, and hopefully respond to our invitation of actually coming into the studio next week. We've also sent it to the FFA as well.
Yeah, no, that's good. That is very good. All right, well, that's it for tonight. Again, thanks to Tony Pignata and to Bobby Despotowski and Phil Kelly, Andy Osborne, Murray Stevens and myself, Eamon Duffy. It's a good night from Let's Talk Football. We'll be back again at the same time next week.